Hi there, welcome everybody. My name is Gina. I'm the community health nurse for the Village of Hoffman Estates. And I just wanted to thank you all for coming to this event. I think it's such an important topic, and we're so lucky tonight to have Lynne O-Malley from Right at Home. She's our certified dementia practitioner who is going to put on a great presentation for us. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, all right. Thank you for coming tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time. And I really want to thank the Village of Hoffman Estates for inviting us to present on this really important topic. And of course, for hosting. If anyone needs some snacks or hasn't retrieved some snacks, feel free to go ahead. But thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. So I wanted to just go over a couple things before I started with our PowerPoint. June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. And my hope is for everyone in the room tonight to walk away with some new knowledge or information of some sort. I will not be discussing the causes or treatment of Alzheimer's disease or dementia, as I'm not a clinical professional. But I am here along with some invited colleagues in the room to steer you to local resources who might address specific questions you might have other than what we can answer tonight. So we'll have some time later for questions. And that being said, please be respectful to hold questions until the end. I want to be respectful of the time frame tonight, the hour-long presentation. There's quite a bit of information and content that I want to present to you. So I'm going to go through it in a timely way, and then later on we can do some questions. And then, as I mentioned, I have some colleagues here that are willing to stay after for a short period of time if you have specific questions, and they can chat with you or exchange information, and you can continue your discussion with them on a different day or time. So we'll start. The title of our presentation tonight is Learning About our aging brain. So we're all in this together. That's the first little theme of the night. We're in this together. My name is Lynne O-Malley. I am a certified dementia practitioner. I am also a certified dementia specialist. I'm a community liaison and an educator for Right at Home, in-home care and assistance, which is a home care company that provides care for you and your loved ones in the comfort of your home. We'll talk about Right at Home later on in the evening. These are some of my credentials. During the pandemic, I was afforded the opportunity to obtain some really high standard dementia training and brain awareness training. And it really has engaged me to be very dedicated and committed to this topic. So I'm here tonight to share information. It's not about me, it's all for you. Because as we all grow older, we want to be able to age as well as possible in our community. So we're going to learn a little bit about how that happens. So our objectives for tonight's discussion are, we're going to talk about normal versus age-related memory changes, dementia and Alzheimer's disease, and tips for interacting with someone who may be experiencing these changes. That's really key because we're going to circle back to this again. We don't know who is experiencing some sort of cognitive impairment or change. So I'm going to start with a video. Has anyone here heard of Teepa Snow? Some, maybe not? Okay. Teepa Snow is a world-renowned speaker and expert on the topic of dementia. She has studied it for many years. She's actually coming to Willow Creek Church in Barrington. Her speaking engagement is sponsored by Barrington Area Council on Aging in September. if you're interested in hearing more about what she has to share about the topic. She is a character, so I invite you to be open-minded to her little self-dialogue, which I'm going to play for you. It's about what normal aging is. We're going to listen to her clip, and then we're going to talk about it when we finish. So here we go.
What we're going to talk about now is the difference between normal aging and not normal aging. Now understand, I did not say dementia. I just said normal aging, not normal aging, because one of our big misconceptions in this country is that if it's not normal aging, it's going to be dementia. And that's not true. So we've got to get that one off the table. So what I'm going to do very quickly is give you 2 quick little role plays that are going to take you through normal versus not normal. So I'll do normal first. I'm in the living room. And I've been watching a TV program, and the program finishes, and I decide, you know what? I'm thirsty. I think I'm going to go make a pot of coffee. And I head toward the kitchen to make coffee. But before I get all the way in the kitchen, the telephone rings. And so I answer the telephone. Hello? Oh, hey, sweetheart. How have you been? Well, yes, of course I know who it is. It's, right on the tip of my tongue. Starts with a B. Betty. Of course it's Betty. Sorry. Recognized your voice right away, just couldn't think of your name. Yeah, senior moment. Huh? What? Oh, no, I'd love to get together. Oh, today? Okay, what? At 2 this afternoon? All right. Oh, at the mall. Okay, well, which end? Macy's. Oh, that's where J.C. Penney's was, right? They moved out and then Macy's. I know what you're talking about. Absolutely. The menswear, is that the same? Yep, I know where to be. 2 o'clock, I'll be there. Wait right inside the door. I'll be waiting right inside that door. It's supposed to be a little chilly this afternoon. Yeah. Huh? What? Oh, they opened a new chocolate store. Oh. Well, you know me. You know what I'm going to get. I'll get caramels. I always get caramels. You're going to get I know you like the white flaky stuff in the chocolate. Yes, coconut, of course. That's you. Huh? Oh, no, I'll be happy to call to see if Margaret wants to come. That'd be great. Yeah. Oh, the vacation pictures? Oh, yeah, I'll bring them. Wait till you see yourself in that bathing suit. Oh, I was just kidding. Just teasing you. You know how I am. Such a teaser. She's getting fat. I'm not going to say it, but she sure is getting fat. Okay. Huh? What? No, I didn't say anything. I was just talking to myself, writing a note. All right, sweetheart. Well, I'll see you then. Love you. Okay. Bye-bye. What did I come in here for? Okay, hang on. Let me think here. I was in the living room. I was watching the TV. Program ended. Telephone. Betty hadn't called. I'd been able to remember. Okay, let me think on this. Was it here? Okay. I was in the living room. I was sitting right here. Okay, and the program ended, and I thought, God, man. Okay. Coffee. Why could I not think of that? Lord knows I'm losing it. Now, all of you've gone dead silent because all of your brains are going, I have this. Every single one of your brains is going, oh my God. And your brain is going, that's not dementia. That can't be dementia. I don't think that's dementia. That's just normal. Isn't that normal? I think that's normal. Your brain is talking to itself. One side is going, I think you've got dementia. No, she didn't say that was dementia. I think she said that was just not normal.
What is considered normal? That was normal aging. She never got to not normal aging, so you can all rest assured. But let's talk about what is normal. Normal aging is typical age-related changes such as making a bad decision once in a while, missing an occasional monthly payment, forgetting which day it is and remembering later, right? Sometimes forgetting which word to use, losing things from time to time, Normal aging involves changes taking place within the brain. It's an operational slowdown that we all will experience. So just as our bodies start to deteriorate as we age, guess what? Our brain is an organ, and the same thing is occurring within our brain. So there's no one that's excluded from this. We all are experiencing change. Your working memory can hold 5 to 8 pieces of information at a time. So in reflecting back on the clip we just saw with Teepa, she started her thought process with making coffee, right? Then name searching is a slowing down experience. We notice changes and catch ourselves tripping up. Remember, she said, oh yes, I remember. She didn't remember, but she kind of covered for herself. We use old knowledge to connect and hold on to new information. She recalled, yes, JCPenney's, that's what was there, now it's Macy's. I have to remember that Macy's is now there where JCPenney's was. We use the auditory information to help with word finding. So she couldn't recall the word coconut, but she knew how to describe it, the white flaky stuff. That was when she was referencing the chocolates. And impulses slip, but can be put back in check. She obviously made a little snide comment about her friend in the bathing suit pictures, about being a little robust. So that's her little inhibition. She lost her filter for a second, as we would often say. And we compensate with visual, verbal, or physical cues. So at the end of the conversation, she's trying to figure out, what did I come into this room to do? Talk to yourself. And she's cueing herself to try and pull it back together, which she does in the end by remembering that it was coffee. So dementia, as a general term, is an umbrella term used to describe a collection of brain diseases and their symptoms, which include memory loss, impaired judgment, personality changes, and an inability to perform daily activities. So what you saw with Teepa was normal. Now we're going to talk a little bit about what's not normal and what dementia is. So I like to read this to you just so that I get this wording correctly. We talked about it being a catch-all phrase, umbrella term, and as far as the different types of conditions that are influenced by dementia, they are Alzheimer's disease, which is characterized by amyloid plaques and tangled fibers in the brain and by a loss of connection between nerve cells. Damage initially appears in the hippocampus, an area of the brain involved in memory formation, and gradually spreads. Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of disease caused with dementia symptoms. 60 to 70% of dementia cases are generally Alzheimer's disease. Let me see what's next. Vascular dementia, the second most common type, results from damage to the vessels that supply blood to the brain. It tends to affect focus, organization, problem solving, and speed of thinking more noticeably than memory. Frontal temporal dementia, it's a degenerative damage to the brain's frontal and temporal lobes. It's the most common cause of people in age 65 and younger. So it presents younger. Symptoms might include apathy, difficulty communicating, walking or working, emotional changes, impulsive or inappropriate behaviors. Lewy body dementia is abnormal protein deposits in the brain affecting brain chemistry and leading to problems with behavior, mood, movement, and thinking, often characterized with hallucinations. And then there's other dementias that are influenced or related to Parkinson's, Huntington's, and others. And sometimes you can have a mixed combination of some of these. But I'm not going to get into all the specifics of this, but I do have information afterwards to share with you. But there are types of dementia situations that are reversible, and this is really an important thing for you to note. because in some cases one might think that it is an indication of Alzheimer's when it could be something else in the body going on. And that's why it's really important to consult a doctor. Here are some examples of dementia situations or types of dementia that are reversible. Emotional disorders, depression, anxiety, or stress can cause, think about it. I mean, if you're stressed or you're very emotional, you're not thinking clearly, right? Metabolic disorders like kidney, liver, or thyroid problems affect the brain. Dehydration or malnutrition. Think about when you're dehydrated, you get kind of a little delirious, right? Toxicity, something very toxic in your body that your body's not handling, can affect the brain. Alcohol, drugs, medication interactions, very common with medication interactions. Head trauma, that's, if you've had a concussion or fallen or some sort. Infections, UTIs, urinary tract, very common with this. But these can be treated, right? And a urinary tract can generally be treated with antibiotics. Blood clots, brain infections or tumors, and vitamin B12 deficiencies. So these are just examples of things that are important for you to get checked out with your doctor. So what makes dementia very different from typical aging? It's the loss of cognitive functioning serious enough to interfere with daily activities. Causes changes in memory, language, thought, navigation, behavior, personality or mood, planning and organizing. So now we've talked about what dementia is. Now I'm going to go into what Alzheimer's disease is. This is a pretty good in-depth explanation by the Alzheimer's Association. So I'll let this play and then we can talk after.
What is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's is a slow, fatal disease of the brain affecting 1 in 10 people over the age of 65. No one is immune. The disease comes on gradually as 2 abnormal protein fragments called plaques and tangles accumulate in the brain and kill brain cells. They start here in the hippocampus, the part of the brain where memories are first formed. Over many years' time, the plaques and tangles slowly destroy the hippocampus, and it becomes harder and harder to form new memories. Simple recollections from a few hours or days ago that the rest of us might take for granted are just not there. After that, more plaques and tangles spread into different regions of the brain, killing cells and compromising function wherever they go. This spreading around is what causes the different stages of Alzheimer's. From the hippocampus, the disease spreads here to the region of the brain where language is processed. When that happens, it gets tougher and tougher to find the right word. Next, the disease creeps toward the front of the brain, where logical thought takes place. Very gradually, a person begins to lose the ability to solve problems, grasp concepts, and make plans. Next, the plaques and tangles invade the part of the brain where emotions are regulated. When this happens, the patient gradually loses control over moods and feelings. After that, the disease moves to where the brain makes sense of things it sees, hears, and smells. In this stage, Alzheimer's wreaks havoc on a person's senses and can spark hallucinations. Eventually, the plaques and tangles erase a person's oldest and most precious memories, which are stored here in the back of the brain. Near the end, the disease compromises a person's balance and coordination, and in the very last stage, it destroys the part of the brain that regulates breathing and the heart. The progression from mild forgetting to death is slow and steady, and takes place over an average of 8 to 10 years. It is relentless and, for now, incurable. Helping your family, friends, and neighbors to better understand Alzheimer's will reduce stigma, improve care, and even help the fight for a cure. Thanks for helping to do your part. Learn more at www.aboutalz.org.
Okay, here are the facts. More than 6 million Americans of all ages are living with the disease, and by 2050, there will be nearly 13 million. 1 in 9 people aged 65 and older have Alzheimer's disease, so as you get older, your odds are greater. Likelihood of developing doubles every 5 years after 65, so that at 85, the risk reaches nearly 32%. 2 out of 3 are women. Anybody have any idea why? That's right. Why? They live longer. Women live longer, so they get to make the data. 61% of those with the disease are living in their community. So that's a very important fact for us to be able to support people that are living in the community. And that's why there are initiatives that are coming about, dementia-friendly communities, where everyone in the community gets involved to try and support individuals living with dementia, because they have the right to live in their community and live independently. There are 16.1 million caregivers of people with Alzheimer's or other dementias. That's a lot of people taking care of a lot of family members, and they need support because the burnout is tremendous. It's very real. 1 in 3 seniors dies with Alzheimer's or another dementia. It kills more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. Life expectancy averages 4 to 8 years beyond diagnosis in general. And between 2000 and 2019, deaths from heart disease, the leading cause of death, have decreased, while deaths from Alzheimer's disease have more than doubled. So we want to promote this awareness so that you and people that you love and people that you know can be on board. And these are facts from the Alzheimer's Association. Okay, so as you saw in that video clip from the Alzheimer's Association, I'm going to refer to my notes here, the healthy brain contains tens of millions of neurons, specialized cells that process and transmit information via electrical and chemical signals. They send messages between different parts of the brain and from the brain to the muscles and organs of the body. Alzheimer's disease disrupts this communication among the neurons, resulting in loss of function and cell death. How does Alzheimer's disease affect the brain? The brain typically shrinks to some degree in healthy aging, but surprisingly does not lose neurons in large numbers. In Alzheimer's disease, however, damage is widespread. As many neurons stop functioning, lose connections with other neurons, they die. And Alzheimer's disrupts the process vital to neurons and their networks, including communication, metabolism, and repair. This happens because of the breakdown of a large protein called amyloid precursor protein. In the Alzheimer's brain, abnormal levels of this naturally occurring protein, it's natural in every one of us, they clump together to form plaques that collect between the neurons and disrupt the cell function. And this leads to structural decline of the brain. So what happens is evident in this cell. So this is a healthy aging brain. this is one that has declined significantly. So you can see the robustness of the healthy brain, the aging, affected brain, the structure, it's losing its structure. It's just not there. So the connection, the cells have already deteriorated, and there's loss of function, pretty obvious in a physical state. So now we're going to get into the meat of tonight, and this is important because warning signs are a reason for you to connect with your doctor, your neurologist. If you or someone you love or someone you know is showing any of these signs, we encourage you to check it out and don't wait. I will have information on the table afterwards which will cover these 10 signs. But for now, I'm going to go through what the 10 signs are and how they may be confused with normal aging. So, first one, memory loss that disrupts daily life. Increased short-term forgetfulness, but long-term memory is generally kept intact. So someone can still retain their memories from childhood or a long time ago generally, but they forget what happened moments ago. Typical age-related change is sometimes forgetting information, but remembering later. Number 2, challenges in planning or solving problems, difficulty following a plan or concentrating. I noticed this in my sister-in-law. She was trying to follow a recipe, which was very simple, for making boxed macaroni and cheese for her grandchild, and she couldn't follow the 3-step process of boiling the water, pouring in the powder, mixing it up, and pouring in the pasta, and she had lost that ability to concentrate and follow that. But a typical age-related would be making occasional errors when managing bills or household finances, but it'll catch up with you eventually, right? Number 3, difficulty completing familiar tasks, keeping track of monthly bills, writing a grocery list, or what I just said, following a recipe. So difficulty doing the things that are familiar to you suddenly become a little challenging. Typical age-related change would be occasionally needing help to use the microwave or remote. How many of you here have sometimes, kind of just forget about it, right? Because you're not doing it all the time. Confusion with time or place, someone forgetting where they are, how they got there. Typically happens, driving, but can happen anywhere. Typical age-related change could be confusion about what day it is, or missing a scheduled appointment, but figuring it out later. That's the key, coming back to it later, right? Difficulty with visual and spatial relationships can manifest in problems affecting driving, also getting lost, like we mentioned. This sign demonstrates that changes are just not about memory. So Alzheimer's, think about it, your brain is encased in your head. Your vision is one of the very foremost things that is affected. Our vision gets very diminished as we get older. So we lose our peripheral. A 25-year-old may have 180 peripheral vision. As we gain age, that peripheral vision starts to diminish. And you might be walking along in the sidewalk with a friend, talking with someone, and all of a sudden you trip over something, trip over the sidewalk, because you're just not able to kind of sense that it's there. That's related to normal aging, but it can be also a sign of dementia because of the fixation of the diminished vision. Typical age-related changes, as I mentioned, would be effects of cataracts or age-declining vision. Communication problems, losing words in conversation or asking a question over and over. It's a common one. Telling the same story about a recent event multiple times. Typical age-related change might be occasionally having trouble finding the right word, but, not always. 7, misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace steps. One might put things in unusual places And the lack of executive function in the brain and awareness may lead to suspicion and accusations that someone stole something. We can talk later, but typically what we recommend is if this is taking place, that you try to retrace their steps, and they may have just gotten lost and put their keys in the microwave because they were thinking that they were putting it in a cabinet. You know, losing things on occasion, but retracing steps is normal age-related change, so you can retrace your steps. 8, decreased or poor judgment, perhaps dealing with money or paying less attention to hygiene or grooming, more common with those living alone. Just not taking care of themselves, you know, for someone that might be very impeccable with their clothing, you'll start to notice changes that it's not quite in their important list. Making a bad decision occasionally, such as forgetting to get an oil change, is more of a typical age-related change. 9, withdrawal from work or social activities. Losing the ability to hold or follow a conversation may lead to withdrawal and loss of interest in social encounters or activities due to lack of confidence. My sister-in-law, I reference her because she used to be a very social person involved in a sewing group amongst her friends, and she worries now about not being able to follow the conversation and when she's with people socially, so she's become more inclined to being isolated and alone, not engaged in the things that she used to be active in. So in normal aging, there are times we can feel less interested by family or social engagements. Yeah, I don't feel like seeing the family this weekend. That's normal, right? Some of you are smiling. Changes in mood or personality. Emotions run high or vacillate depending on the situation, usually sparked by an unmet need. We're going to talk about that, which is affected by physical, environmental, or psychological and changes, impacts. And with normal aging, we often prefer certain ways of doing things and become upset or irritable when routine or procedure is disrupted. I think we all kind of get that one, maybe? So is there concern, if there is a concern, getting an early diagnosis of dementia is important for a person to receive treatment and support, allowing them to plan well for the future. It's really important. Don't hesitate. Check it out, please. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you, or I'm going to play a little clip. This is our friend Natalie. Let me go back to her. And she's going to talk about how memories function in the bookcase analogy. This is really interesting.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm a Dementia Friends champion, and I'm going to explain dementia to you in the way that it was explained to me. It's not a scientific explanation, but it should give you some insight into how dementia might affect someone. But remember, dementia affects each person in different ways. First of all, I'd like you to imagine that I'm 80 years old, and that beside me there's a bookcase that's as tall as I am, and it's filled with books. Each of those books represents a memory, a fact, something that I've learned in the last 80 years. Right by my head would be my most recent memories, maybe what I had for breakfast this morning. By my shoulders, I might have my 60s, maybe my retirement party. By my knees, I'd probably have my 20s, so maybe when I met my partner. And then all the way down by my feet would be my childhood memories, maybe my first day of school. Dementia rocks my bookcase. So as it rocks my bookcase, what do you think is likely to happen to those books? They're going to fall out, aren't they? And which ones do you think are likely to fall out first? The ones at the top. So that might explain why my short-term memory would be affected first. As my dementia progresses, I might find that my most recent memories, that's to say, the books that are highest on my bookcase, being from further down, from earlier in my life. Now, Say I've got to the point where all of my top shelves are empty and I'm living in the 1950s. I want you to embrace my reality. I'm going to go into my kitchen today and try and make myself a cup of tea. But remember, I think I'm living in the 1950s. So what's going to be different about my kitchen? You're probably thinking the layout, the appliances. Now remember, I want to make tea. The kettle, right? It's likely to be electric rather than a whistling kettle that you put on the hob. You might see me, when you come round one day, filling up my electric kettle and doing what with it? Putting it on the hob. Now say that you're my loved one, my carer, my friend, and you see me doing this, you might be tempted to say, you cannot make your own tea anymore, it's just too dangerous. But how might that make me feel? I might feel sad, frustrated, like I'm losing my independence, thirsty. Now, as I said, embrace my reality. What could you do differently to help me to make my own tea for longer? You could buy me a whistling kettle. Now, of course, I'm not saying that's going to help everybody at different points in their dementia, but at this point, it would help me. So this just goes to show how embracing my reality can really help me to live well with my dementia. From what you've heard so far, you might think that someone with dementia loses everything. But actually, that's because I've only told you about one part of the brain. I've told you about my factual bookcase. Now, this represents my hippocampus. That's the part of my brain where I manage factual and biographical data, so things like names and faces and dates and numbers. And unfortunately, it's built of really flimsy wood and is not very resistant to dementia, which is why it's going to rock so much. And I'm more likely to lose those books. However, there's another part of my brain that manages my feelings and my emotions. That part of the brain is called the amygdala, and it's much more resistant to dementia. So I'd like you to picture that as a separate bookcase, but that is made of solid oak. So even though it will be rocked, the contents will be safer for longer. Now let me explain to you how the two bookcases work together. Say when I was a child, I had a teacher, so the fact of that teacher is going to go way down by my feet on my factual bookcase, but the way he made me feel, which was inspired and like I could do anything in my life, is going to go on the emotional bookcase. Let me give you some examples of how that might work today when I have dementia. So think again, you're my loved one, my carer, my friend, and you come round and we have a blazing row. We have a really big argument because I've forgotten your name. Now the fact of that argument is going to go on my factual bookcase. What feelings do you think are going to go onto my emotional bookcase? Sadness, anger, frustration. And as you go home, you might think, it doesn't matter. She's going to forget that we had the argument and that I shouted at her. And you're right, I probably will. But what's likely to stay with me are those feelings of sadness and anger and frustration with nothing to connect it to. I'm going to leave you with a positive example. So I'd like you to picture that you've come to visit me, we've gone out to the seaside, we had an ice cream, we had a brilliant day, and I feel safe and warm and loved. But on the way home, I've forgotten the ice cream and I've forgotten the day out, and you might think, it's just not worth visiting anymore. But look, you've left me with those feelings of happiness and safety and love, and that's what really matters. At Dementia Friends, we want to encourage everybody who knows someone with dementia to continue to visit and spend time with people with dementia and help them to live well. And always remember, there is more to the person than the dementia. Thank you.
So I'm going to go into a little bit back, I'm jumping back and forth, so that's a little, I hope that was able to help you a little bit about understanding memories and, you know, the hippocampus and different parts of the brain and how we retain memories. Now I want to talk a little bit about how we process the world. through our senses. And how we do so is from what you see, what you hear, what you feel and touch, what you smell, what you taste. But the most powerful sensory input is visual. We talked about that before, about your vision and how people pay attention. People with dementia are going to look to see at something first. If they hear a noise, they're going to look to see where that noise is. And we naturally do that, right? If you hear a siren, you're looking to see where it is. So these are things that we have to keep in mind with someone that has dementia, because we want to help them preserve their natural feelings, like Natalie said. But behavior comes into play because it's a form of communication. And the common causes of behavior are when someone is physically uncomfortable, there's a lot of background noise, unfamiliar or busy place, vision or hearing loss, can't hear, so might get some behavior, being asked to do something that is not understood or too difficult, confusion, feeling overwhelmed. These are common causes of behavior related to dementia. And these are behaviors, typical, those were causes. These are typical behaviors associated with dementia. And these are like up to 70 to 90% of people with dementia have these experience these behaviors. Resisting, begging, repeating, calling out, swearing and insulting, bothering and threatening, wandering, sexual inappropriate behavior, several behaviors around sundowning. Why? Because if you can't communicate, your brain is not functioning to its fullest function or fullest capacity, you're not going to be able to communicate what your needs are. So we call these basic unmet needs. We have to remind ourselves, if someone is with dementia or cognitive impairment is displaying certain types of behaviors that you may feel are inappropriate, we need to kind of be a detective and figure out what's going on, because they can't communicate what their need is. Is the person in pain? Does the person need to use the toilet? Is the person hungry or thirsty? Is the person bored or overstimulated, irritated or nervous? Is the person tired? Is the person too hot or cold? These are typical things that cause behaviors. So I'm going to look for someone that can be a volunteer, and I'm going to show you, we're going to demonstrate. Where's Gina? Come on, Gina. You're a good sport. Grab a chair, roll a chair over. I'm going to demonstrate to you now how to approach someone you think may have cognitive impairment, or who you think or know may have dementia, right? Have a seat. Let's, why don't you just, right here, have a seat. Okay, guess what? You get to be the person with dementia. Demented. Okay, so I'm going to approach Gina. I want to have a conversation. I want to have an interaction with her, right? She is in a state of what we know is some sort of cognitive impairment. We believe, may not know for sure, which we're going to circle back to in a little while. I'm going to approach her. We all went through this in the pandemic, 6 feet away. I'm going to get into her visual range, because remember, we lose our peripheral vision. So we want to get into her range, 6 feet. I want to be respectful. And I'm going to raise my hand, and I'm going to put my hand to my face. Remember, I said the visual thing, people with dementia, they're going to look first. They're going to follow your cueing. So I'm going to cue her. I'm going to put my hand to my face, and I'm going to address her. Hi, Gina.
Hi.
Hi. So I've got her attention now. And now I'm going to try to connect and ask permission to come in and come closer into her personal space. And I'm going to extend my hand, and if she reacts, she's given me the approval to come to approach her. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Okay, so she's extended her hand. If someone does not react, it is not you do not have the right to go and invade their personal space. You must wait for some sort of acknowledgement, right? So I've connected with her hand to hand. We've made that contact. We've got some stimulation now, tactile stimulation. She knows that I'm here. How are you? You look so good, and I'm loving the dress that you're wearing today. I couldn't imagine wearing such pretty colors. So I'm paying her a compliment. I'm engaging her in something. It doesn't have to be a compliment. It could be anything, but something about her that's going to capture her attention so that she can engage in conversation with me. I love the dress. It's beautiful. You look so nice. And now that she's heard that, if she acknowledges, I'm going to take one step towards her, and I'm going to come to her side. This is very important because, again, remember the visual range. I've got my hand on her shoulder, so she feels connected with me, my hand in her hand, and I'm going to get into her visual range. Notice I'm not behind her. I'm in front of her, but I'm not crouching on her so she feels like I'm attacking her. Because if you get in too close to someone, they're going to go into fight or flight and think like you're attacking her. So I'm still being respectful of her space here. How are you? It's so good to see you. I was thinking that maybe we could go for a walk and go check out some of the beautiful, awesome snacks that are over on the table. So she's kind of acknowledged. That means a yes, right? So now what I've done is I'm in her hand. We're in a handshake. I'm going to kind of clasp our thumbs and go make like a butterfly or a bird of some sort. And I'm going to wrap her hand such that she's on top. I'm supporting her hand with my hand underneath. We're still connected. And this is called hand under hand. Very, very important for someone with dementia. And now she feels connected to me. And she feels like she's in control. But I'm here to support her, to guide her. Okay, so I'm going to give her some cues. We're going to stand up. I'm going to help you stand up. And then we're going to take a walk over and look at some of those amazing cookies. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Okay, so now she's given me the permission to do so. I'm going to count to 3, and on 3, we're going to stand up. 1 in her range. 1, cue, 2, 3. Here we go. Up. And now I can actually grab her other hand, hand under hand, and I've got her kind of tucked in so she's nice and secure, right? And then we can get some rhythm going. We can get the hips moving because people with dementia sometimes get stuck and they forget how to get started. They may forget how to get started walking or doing, some sort of mobility. So I got her going, and of course rhythm. We can sing, we can talk. Let's see, how about you are my sunshine, my only sun. Come on, get those hips going with me. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear. We see those cookies over there.
That's what I'm going for.
You're going for the cookies. So you get the idea, right? We're supporting her. Thank you. You're great demonstrator. Is to make that connection, I'll go through those highlights again now. Connection is key. Use a consistent, positive physical approach. So Teepa Snow, the woman that spoke at the beginning of the presentation, she developed this methodology, which is proven to be so helpful. Pause at the edge of public space, 6 feet, remember that. Gesture and greet by name. Offer your hand and make eye contact. Approach slowly with visual range. Shake hands and maintain hand under hand position. I normally would make you all practice this, but I'm letting you off the hook tonight. Move to the side. Get eye to eye level and respect intimate space. Got it? And wait for the acknowledgement. Connect to their moment and validate. So, Anybody have any thoughts on these two photographs, images? By the way, the lady on the left, she's holding she's holding an apple, actually. Oh, yes, she is holding a brush, but in the photograph. A composition book and an apple and a pencil. She was a teacher. And of course, the gentleman on the right, I think, is pretty obvious, right? Yes. So our point in this, anybody have any ideas on the point of these slides, why I'm showing these slides?
They remember the past,
Yes?
not the present,
Yes?
and they remember happy times.
Yes?
That's how they remember themselves.
That's how they remember themselves. And they might be still in that moment. We have to meet people with dementia in the moment they are in. It's so important. We have to forget about our agenda, what we have to do now, or getting them somewhere, someplace. If they are in a moment where they are feeling something, there's a reason they're feeling something in that moment. We're all human beings. We have to meet them in that moment and support them in that moment and be able to allow them to feel that you love them and that you care for them and you know who they are, even though you may feel like you've lost that person. I love this quote. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Good old Maya Angelou, boy, did she know what she was talking about. The takeaway here, I usually do this presentation to sometimes clinical professionals, and I usually give away these little rubber duckies, and they come in different colors, and they're in this camouflage pattern, and I hand them out at the end of my presentation, and I ask these nurses or whoever is taking listening to my program, what do you think this rubber ducky represents in what you just learned over the last 45 minutes or hour? And this is sort of an abbreviated version of that. I'll answer it for you. People with dementia are really trying to stay afloat. And sometimes they have their tough days where it's not happening. And they're trying to move with the group and be a part of the group. But it's not always that easy. So we don't know, as I said earlier, we don't know who has cognitive change or impairment going on. We know that it's taking place amongst all of us, so why not treat each other with the same dignity and respect as you would want to be treated if you were experiencing this kind of situation? So I always say, I try to make it my thing now. When I see somebody, I don't know if somebody has cognitive issues going on. I try to be respectful and give a proper hello. Extend the hand in the handshake. What's happened to the handshake? No, COVID obviously put that out the door, right? But I think we need to get back into that now and show some respect. Be respectful of people's space. Hi, how are you? May I shake your hand? Good to see you. Get into their visual range. Make a connection. Human contact is so important. And if we don't know if someone has a cognitive impairment or cognitive concerns, we need to be respectful of that. So that's my takeaway. But I'm going to take it one step further. Become a dementia friend. Help to raise awareness and reduce stigma as a healthcare professional. As I said, I train nurses and CNAs and people that are caring for people with dementia, or as community members. They are community members. Even though they're a healthcare professional, they're also community members. So that those living with dementia are treated with respect and dignity and thus can thrive. So I'm going to play you a little clip, and I'm going to ask that you consider.
If you saw someone living with dementia, would you recognize the signs? Would you be uncomfortable? Would you avoid them? Would you be frustrated? Would you do nothing? Or would you be a friend? Would you engage them and empower them to get through their day? Would you welcome the opportunity to help them feel like a part of your community? Would you take even the smallest step to make their world less frightening or confusing? Every single one of us has a unique part to play in the lives of people living with dementia in our community. Become a dementia friend today and build communities where all people can live, age, and thrive.
Hey, Mr. Fredrickson, it's Tuesday. Aren't you going to the store?
Yeah.
Come on, I'll walk with you.
Find out more at dementiafriendsusa.org.
I know, if only. If only. Anyway, so that concludes our presentation tonight. Here are some resources. Number one, consult a physician, always number one. The Alzheimer's Association, and I have some information here. If some of you are on a tight time frame, I want to be respectful of that. Dementia Friends, we just learned about. You can go on their website, watch a couple of very short videos and learn how to become a friend. It's kind of a nice informational thing to have as a community member. And of course, Right at Home, in-home care and assistance, that's who I am with. We provide care to folks that are looking to remain independently at home, and to their caregivers as well. Yes, so our information is there. And then if you'd like to have a couple questions, again, I want to be respectful of time. I know that's really important. And this can, typically these discussions can linger or go on. Before I open up to questions, I wanted to quickly introduce some of my professional colleagues here tonight. Jeanette Palmer, franchise owner for 20 plus years for Right at Home, in-home care and assistance. For those looking to remain independently at home. Denise Massioni from the Woodlands at Canterfield. It's a brand new, soon to be open senior living community that also offers memory care in neighboring West Dundee. And Mary Helen Extum, a board certified music therapist who has extensively studied music in the brain and its specific impact on people living with dementia. We are all here to assist, I should say, with questions. And if we run out of time, my colleagues and I are willing to stay and chat with you, but we can also exchange our information and have you connect with us at another time. So does anybody have any kind of quick questions? Oh, here it comes. Okay, gentleman in the back, I saw your hand go up first.
Easy one. What is sundowning?
You ladies, anybody want to? Jeanette, you want to take it? Here, so we can hear.
Sundowning is in the afternoon. Typically, what happened in the past was people would come home from work, or the children would be coming home from school, the wife or someone would be making dinner. It was a busy time of day, but what happens now is there isn't that activity anymore. And so the person is feeling lost and agitated, trying to figure out what is happening. Like, I should be doing something, but I don't know what it is. So they may be having some type of behavior because they need an activity. So what we do a lot of times is help with folding laundry, giving them just tasks to do. Folding laundry, peeling potatoes, washing dishes, something like that to help reduce that anxiety.
Good one. Okay. Anybody? Next? I'm going to keep moving along so that... Okay, yes.
Is any of it genetic?
Is any of it genetic? I don't know if I want to answer that. I would say consult there's a ton of information online about it. I really don't feel comfortable getting into that. What you said, perhaps, maybe, is that a good answer?
Well, we know that if family members have it, that you're more likely to have it.
Okay, sorry. I wish I was a neurologist so I could answer a lot more questions. Anybody else? Yes?
Where are you actually out of? What location?
We, Right at Home has a location in West Dundee, North Barrington, and Mount Prospect, but our staff covers all of the northwest suburbs, so northwest suburban Chicago. But we are a national, actually international franchise, and Jeanette was one of the first franchises, home care franchises that opened here in the Chicago area more than 20 years ago. And she's been a tremendous advocate on the state level for hiring proper qualified caregivers and really trying to be an advocate for folks that need help. Anybody else? Yes?
Are there meds? I've heard.
Are there meds?
Yeah, that it could slow the progression, but is it each medication works differently on different people? Is that?
Mary Helen, you want to take this one?
Sure. Do you want me to stand?
I think so. Your voice will probably project a little bit better. The question was, are there meds that can slow the projection or the progression?
Yes.
So initially, in the early stages of any kind of dementia or Alzheimer's, a lot of times a physician will recommend a medication called Namenda or Aricept. There are some new ones that are coming out with a combination. Typically in the early stages of Alzheimer's, it will slow the progression down. And my sister is doing Alzheimer's and dementia research at the University of Iowa Medical Center, and so I've learned a lot from her clinical expertise. What happens as the disease progresses and you become more in the end stages, those medications stop working. So that's why when somebody's at the very end stage of that disease, and say that hospice comes in, or say that you've got a caregiver from, right at home, that you're trying to keep your loved one in the quality of their home, they'll say, we really don't need to continue those meds because they become ineffective. So yes, so there is some very, very good research out there that is showing that in the beginning stages of that disease, those medications slow down the progression, and they can be very helpful.
Okay. What do they say about exercise and?
Oh, I can talk to you about that one. I've been reading up a lot on this topic. And I think about it, okay, in the most simplistic form, right? We talked tonight about those neurons firing in the brain, right? And the brain being at its utmost alertness and high peak activity. When you put things in your body, such as processed foods or foreign agents that are in unnatural foods, convenience foods, those things they affect everything in your body. And if you're not moving and exercising, your blood flow is just stagnant. So you've got to exercise because that keeps those things firing, and try to, to eat natural whole foods, things that don't have those foreign agents in your body, because they wreak havoc on the cell system. They disrupt your cell system. You could go on for hours. Now it's like my latest obsession, because I'm trying to really focus on this with I have a 24-year-old daughter now. She's got me hooked on this too, because she's just been very focused on healthy aging. So I think that's really important. It's not just talking the talk. It's really, it's really important. It really is. There's a lot of things. Stress, and also,
My father was, every day he'd do this.
drop his head down. Yeah, getting the blood flow, sure. Hey, let me just advance this last slide so that in case somebody wants this information. This is my information, my email right at home. I have some information over on the table here that recaps the 10 warning signs, the 3 stages of Alzheimer's disease. So if you are concerned about someone or how to interact with someone who may be in advanced stages or mid-stage, and the what is dementia and the different types are here as well. and some of my information. Like I said, oh, one more question.
What comes to me is what kind of testing or protocols do they follow to determine that you are that you're not at early stage, that you're actually, not just aging dementia, but that it's Alzheimer's?
Anybody want to take that one?
Can I follow up on that question? How do you determine when they have lost the capacity to make decisions? How do you get them to go to memory home? If they want to stay at home? How do there's no definitive test, is there, to say somebody's incompetent?
Well, I can respond to the first, I think they're kind of two different questions, but the first one on how is that diagnosed? Yeah. So basically what happens is that, as Lynn pointed out, there were some things, like if somebody's showing signs with numbers, like they can't, that is the first sign, or they're having, like if they can't follow a recipe, or they can't dial a phone number, or they can't do the microwave, or they can't, that's the first sign. So when you go to your doctor, as Lynn pointed out, go to your doctor, they're going to recommend probably a neuropsych evaluation or a cognitive evaluation. And there's certain tests that they can do with you that are going to go over like numbers, sequencing, verbal skills, processing, reasoning, all of those things that are affecting the whole brain. And
go ahead.
No. And they can determine then, like what stages you're in, if it's normal aging, or if you're really progressing with that disease. But like as an example, Lynn pointed out, like as an example, if somebody has normal aging and say that they forgot where they put their spoon or their fork, you know what I mean? Sometimes we forget, like, oh, did we put that in this drawer or this drawer? Or we put, our keys. Somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia, they won't know, they'll put a fork in their hand and they won't even know how to use it. So those are some distinct differences on normal aging versus really not recognizing, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And when you were saying about putting someone in a home, I want to address Denise on this, because the Woodlands is offering a memory care unit, and along with assisted living. And do you want to just do a quick little blurb about your...
No, my question was...
Oh, I didn't answer your question. I'm sorry.
I had a friend who goes to the doctor. She aces the cognitive test, but they said she's low on concentration. And to me, how can you have the concentration? So it's hard to get, and I've read that it's very hard to get a test, before you can take over somebody's decision. You have to have a test from the doctor, but they say the tests are very I can spot it, but I have to. I can't go to the court with my POA.
Give them a brush and they will
doesn't give me the legal right to take them without the test.
Oh, and they won't do this test?
Well, she aced it, but then they said she's low in concentration. She should, as a friend.
Thank you. Yes, I know. I want to conclude this now because I want to be respectful of people's time. Like I said, our three, my colleagues will be here till maybe 10 minutes or so. If you want to stay around, you have more questions, and we can give you our business cards. So feel free to approach any of us. And thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it.